The City of the Seven Hills, Chapter 5. The Power Behind the Pope. With eyes now opened, look at yonder sight. Satan transformed, an angel of the light. His left hand holds a crucifix, his right a naked sword. What harmony in these! The quickened sense the adversary sees, spite of disguises, as the piercing eye of Jesus did the Prince of Hell descry. Hid in the form of Peter, so our gaze looks on the lie with anger and amaze. Rome is a hierarchy, and means the reign through priests of the old enemy again. 200 millions of the sacred sway of the triple tyrant and his word obey. Upon them 500,000 priests with feet audacious tread and tramp as seemeth meet. Upon the priests 1,000 bishops climb and cluster on their shoulders while sublime. Above the bishop cardinals appear, and over them the ruler of the sphere. The aged autocrat, and close behind frowns the dark visage of the mastermind. O form half seen, half hidden, black as night, and blood-stained, furtive, shrinking from the sight, slippery, unearthly, calculating, cold, the papal helm and scepter thou dost hold. Yes, thou! The vision startles men at times, and then recedes the mountain of thy crimes. Looms like a lurid Etna twixt the clouds, and while the world is gazing, darkness shrouds the horror, and men think on it no more. Yet there it is in fact, as it was before. Satan himself beneath the sacred name of Jesus followers the loftiest claim, the purest doth advance, angel of light. His name is Jesuit or Jesuite. The company of Jesus, Satan's band, his own militia, his material hand, his heart of falsehood, his most subtle mind, his serpent shape while coil in coil doth wind, and in the folds, the fangs, the glittering eyes. God shall unearth thee, yet thy sentence lies writ in his book. Yea, hast thou never read, the woman's seed shall bruise the serpent's head? He whose great name thou bearest, he shall crush thy hateful head. Go then, thy presence hush. Slip slyly into palaces and shrines, sit in confessionals, dig secret mines, plot, plan, pretend, dissemble, darken, lie. Heaven yet shall drag thee forth and lift thee high, and with its hand of might in holy ire fling thee, foul serpent, in the eternal fire. O monstrous pyramid, I see it rise, it seems to tower and touch the very skies. Man's lofty free morality is mute in the dread presence of the Absolute. The priest is in the place of the Most High, all must submit to his authority. Then in his turn the priest doth bend before the bishop, while the bishop doth adore the pope, and he, well, Satan doth inspire, Satan dark-dressed in Jesuit's attire, and in that fraud than he there is none higher. Ye foolish victims of conspiracy, what's your pope? A mask, a mystery. The mouthpiece is another. Read and see the doctrines of the Jesuits, who guide the papal judgment and unseen decide the voice of the infallible, and read the story of their deeds. Take ye good heed, to whom your soul's salvation ye commit. Who is it that in truth does yonder sit in that dark Vatican? See wheel and wheel, how works the strange machine, so to which ye kneel, and how one name another doth conceal. Apostles guide not now, the church is dumb, the fathers dead and buried, conscience numb, the intellect, the soul have lost their eyes. Bibles are banned, and wisdom only lies in one man's breast. And who is at his back? Ah, that's the question. Only trace the track behind the papal chair, where to and fro it winds, and you shall meet with wonder, lo, another pope behind the pope we know. Another pope behind the pope we know. Hello and welcome everybody to a new video from Joggler66, but not Joggler66 alone. I am here together on Sunday the 10th of December in 2017 with my wonderful brother in Christ Brett Norman over there in the United States of America, connected via this wonderful Skype machine so that we can talk as if we were sitting even in the same room. The only thing is we don't see each other because he didn't put his camera on. Maybe not yet. Maybe he will do so. I don't know. And we are here to fulfill a little quote-unquote promise. I already did a few videos, as you know, on Codeword Barbelon, and I teased you a little bit with saying that I'm going to read that book, and Brett wants to take the time to do that. So this weekend, Brett took it unto him to not clean his house from top to bottom, only from top to a little bottom, and thereby he saved a little time to come together with me, and we wanted to start reading Codeword Barbelon, Danger in the Vatican, the book that was published in the year 2006 by the author P.D. Stuart, who I have a little bit a problem with, and I'm going to tell you right away what that problem is. But first, let's say hello to Brett over there in the United States of America. How you doing, brother?
Wonderful. Thank you, Jörg, and I appreciate you encouraging me to embark on this journey with you in reading this most interesting book. And please, I would love to hear what you have to say about P.D. Stewart. I'm all ears.
Encouraging, that's a good word. I have been bugging you all the time. When are we going to start? When are we going to start about this? And dear listener, it is not that I have nothing else to do. I'm still busy reading The Papacy is the Antichrist from Martin Luther, or Against the Papacy, an Institution of the Devil by Martin Luther.
That's right.
I still have a few broadcasts in that to do, and I have so many other things planned, like reading the book, by the way, so that you will know that that is on my agenda in English. The very next thing to do when I get my new computer. Did the Catholic Church give us the Bible by David W. Daniels? And that, of course, is also to explain to the people why the King James and only the King James is the only acceptable Bible in the English and actually any language today. But okay, let's not go too far. What problem do I have with P.D. Stewart? Well, the problem that I have is not with P.D. Stewart himself. That is more with Lux Verbi, the publishing company that brings out his books. And they brought out many books, and they brought out at least 4 books of P.D. Stewart. They brought out Codeword Barbelon, 666 Danger in the Vatican, the one that we are going to read maybe starting even today, because I will tell you in a moment what can maybe come in between those plans. Then, of course, part 2 of this book, because Codeword Barbelon, dear reader, when you ever go to start reading this book, be aware that this is about 550 pages, or 520 pages, and this is only part 1. There's part 2, The Antichrist is a Woman, Alive and Well. Also Codeword Barbelon part 2 called, from P.D. Stewart. And in the very beginning of the book they say that they are going to publish other works of P.D. Stewart, probably in, what was it, 2009 or something that I read here somewhere, that they were bringing this out. This is in the beginning here. Why don't I see this right now?
Oh, yeah, right, right.
Yeah, because he was, the other book is The Gospel of Judas and Gnostic Christianity, an unauthorized guide to the Da Vinci Code. And Antichrist is a woman, alive and well. Yeah, okay, that is the second part. So these other books.
Yeah.
No, and what problem do I have with Lux Verbi? Brett ordered and paid for 5, how do you say that? 5 books.
No, 3.
Or 3 books.
Yeah,
okay.
correct
3
you
books.
quickly.
Okay.
I was going to get 5, but
Yeah,
one of our friends backed out on us,
Okay,
and
that's how I come to this.
so
5.
I reduced it to 3.
Okay, but this is how I come to this 5. Okay.
Yep.
He ordered 3 books from the new release of the author of Codeword Barbelon, P.D. Stuart, who wrote a book, Pope Francis, Lord of the World. And that was announced by Lux Verbi already last year, and I think somewhere in July or August. And about the time of Reformation Day 2016, Brett ordered them, and then he paid for them. And today we have the 10th of December 2017, more than a year later, and we didn't receive any copy of any book yet. Yeah? And Brett ordered 3 copies of that book, paid for, and we don't have them. That is really a problem that I have, but that problem is, of course,
well, you know what, Jörg, is I think that I've been kind of waiting to tell you is that I do believe that book is in the works right now. They actually released some pages from it, and I've read it. And if you go to that website, they were claiming to have it printed in September or something, and it's in the works. And I'm hoping it will come. So, sometimes you have to be really patient with these things. Certainly the title Pope Francis, Lord of the World, is quite a maybe they ran into very intriguing. It could be they ran into some problems. Who knows? But hopefully the books will arrive. I still have some hope for that, so we'll see. But it looks good for now. I mean, if you go to that website, and we can provide a link in this video too, so everyone else can see it and order their own book if they would like. But it is rather frustrating because we placed this order well over a year and a half ago or something. It was a long time ago.
A long time ago. And you paid for 3 copies.
Yeah.
And you never
over
got
$130.
Yeah, and you never got any information about where they are. But okay,
I'm not going to get too upset because, it takes a lot of energy to put together a book. And I think you even made the comment, Jörg, that he could be updating this book daily with what's going on with the Roman pontiff at the moment,
Yeah, probably, but on the other hand, if I'm going to write a book on a pope that is still in office, then I have to take that into account in the beginning, in the planning stage of the book already, because otherwise I just publish the book when the pope is dead. And there are no updates possible anymore. But anyway, I'm not going to criticize him. I just wanted to tell to our listeners that we are anxiously awaiting this new publication of P.D. Stuart about Pope Francis, Lord of the World. And in the meantime, of course, we wanted to go into Codeword Barbelon, 2 books of about 500 pages that deal with the secret societies. And Codeword Barbelon starts off, and I'm going to read from the back of the book, and I'm going to read also the foreword before we get really deep into the book, that you get everything that is of importance in this book. But this book really deals with all the secret societies you have ever dreamed of. It deals with the Freemasons, it deals with papal orders like the Jesuits and all other kinds of stuff. And it deals with the whole history of that. And it's very, very interesting, I can assure you. So, but the point was, when I sat then down here on the computer and I wanted to start reading Codeword Barbelon, then all of a sudden Brett came and said, well, I just had a look at James Atkin Wiley's wonderful work, The History of Protestantism. And you'll never guess what I just saw. In Volume 2, page 387, there our dear friend James Atkin Wiley goes into the constitutions of the Jesuits, and that is the very first chapter of Codeword Barbelon. So, Brett, in his wonderful ideas that he always has, sent me some time ago all 3 volumes of the History of Protestantism by James Atkin Wiley in an original publishing. Yeah? So this is a book from the 19th century. It was published, I think, in 1878, something like that. I have here volume 2, and instead of opening page 387 that he suggested, I went to page 377, and I see that the whole book 15 deals with the Jesuits, starting, of course, with the birth of Loyola, and then in page 387, as Brett suggested so wonderfully, chapter 3 in that book then deals with the constitutions. But when you then go around and read the constitutions of this book, how can you stop when you come to the next chapter, which is called the moral code of the Jesuits? I think you can't. You go,
is true.
You go from one to another. These books are so wonderful in their research and everything that they've done. When you then come to chapter 5, that is called the Jesuit teaching on regicide, murder, lying, theft, etc., 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 well, that is actually all what Codeword Barbelon is about also. So the point is, what are we going to do? Are we going to read 2 books simultaneously and really make this a very deep study into the whole subject? Well, my suggestion to you, dear listener, and to you, Brett, in the same moment, because we did not speak about that on beforehand, I don't do that. We do this spontaneously, because this is where the Spirit leads us, and we will see where this video then comes out from. I want to you from the back side of the book of Codeword Barbelon, and then I'm going to read to you a part of Codeword Barbelon, and then we can go into the constitutions on page 387 of James Atkin Wiley's book of the History of Protestantism, and we see where it takes us. Is that all right with you, Brett?
Sounds wonderful. Let's go.
Yeah, and whenever you have something to say, then please interrupt my reading and just throw in your comment, because I value your participation in this. This is not my
Very good.
This is not my work. This is our work in the name of Jesus Christ.
All right, let's do it.
This groundbreaking book, speaking about Codeword Barbelon from P.D. Stuart, is an extraordinary account of international power and intrigue that drops a bombshell of some magnitude into the lap of the reader. While Dan Brown's The Da Vinci Code challenged our perceptions of reality and history, it failed to answer this very simple question. Who controls the secret societies? The Da Vinci Code and a lot of other movies are dealing with secret societies, but they never tell you who controls these secret societies. Now, Codeword Barbelon answers that question in great detail, in very great detail, dear listener, and with impeccable proof. In this impressive piece of detective work, P.D. Stuart gives us a startling and compelling book into the machinations of an elite secret society that manipulates and controls world events. A work of great insight and moral courage, this book exposes in unequivocal terms the secrets, connections, the oaths, and the code words of the powers that be. Codeword Barbelon is a tough book that contains no compromise, and as you know me, I do not compromise the Word of God. I do not compromise the truth for anything or anyone. Whether I like the truth or I don't like the truth, I will never compromise it, because all I want is the truth, and I know that Brett feels the same way.
Yep, and the point here I would add is if you do compromise, you pay for your compromise.
Dearly.
Yes.
Very dearly.
You do. And, you don't come to these realities very easily. And I know a lot of the listeners may perhaps be Roman Catholics, and may be involved in a church and may be involved in a hierarchy or may be involved with the government or with politics. And, you should consider very carefully what you do in this life, as I do as well, because I'm no perfect man either. We all have flaws, but we need each other we need each other as brethren to pull each other out of the ditch when we fall in there. But that's all I got to say.
Okay, so this book contains no compromise, no apologies, and no vagaries. I don't even know what that is. I can't look up every English word before I read something. Anyway, I think it is really important what Brett just said here, and that you understand that we take no compromise and no apologies when we speak these things out. And Brett mentioned there are probably even Catholics listening to this. Well, I hope, I embrace every Catholic, every evangelical, apostate, Protestant to listen to this and to get out of this the information that he needs to see that also he is addressed when our Lord said in Revelation 18 verse 4, "Come out of her, my people." My people. The
Yes.
people who don't have the Spirit of Christ are not his people. They will stay in the apostate churches, or even probably help the apostate churches, or even the church of Antichrist, the synagogue of Satan, the Roman Catholic Church, to achieve their goals. But we speak to the people who are led by the true Spirit and have just been deceived, and that they hopefully, through the study of these things that we are reading on this broadcast, which is probably the first of many more to come, that the things that we show the people here will get them there to open their eyes, and by opening their eyes to see the truth that Jesus Christ prepared for them.
I got a comment here too. That word vagaries, I looked it up just now, and vagary is an unexpected and inexplicable change in situation or in someone's behavior. Now, I can vouch that I've had this in my own life. There are things, when you run into these types of principles that redefine what a church is, for instance, it really can. I guess I've thought about this for a long time, over many, many, many years. So it doesn't really surprise me so much, but I can imagine there are going to be people that when, you know as well as I do, Jörg, when you encounter the truth and it is so blatantly in your face, you can't deny it. It really will have its implications. So. Okay.
I'm going to continue. It spares no characters. Very important. High or low. It spares no characters, high or low, is very interesting because what does the Bible say? The Bible says God is no respecter of persons. And when an author comes to the conclusion that he wants to tell the truth, no matter the cost, no compromise, no apologies, and spare no characters, high or low, then you can quite be sure that this is the truth. And on the other hand, also very important, is the bibliography of this book. This book is full with footnotes that give you the sources of anything that is mentioned in this book. And you can look up the sources for yourself if you want to, or read other books, and will see that they are claiming the same sources. And that is very important to me also, that this book is documented. This is not a novel. This is history, people. And when you know the history, the true history, not the lies that are told to us in the schools and in the universities and of course in the media. But when you know the real history, you do not need any, how do they say that, these books like from Stephen King and this belletristic and all
Oh,
these.
sure. That would be all, what is stories or...
Yeah, there's a word for it, and I don't come to
I
it
know.
right now.
I can't think of it at the moment either.
But you know what I mean. These best-selling books of all this
Fables.
fiction actually that they are.
Fiction, that's it.
You don't need that anymore, because when you
No.
have the truth is so much worse than any fiction could ever be. And when you want to get a glimpse of that, just have a look at the book Acts and Monuments, more known, or become more known as Fox's Book of Martyrs. This book, they continue here on the back side of the book, does not just name names, it connects the dots between the different names. Very interesting. That's also something that I found was very interesting when I was reading Rulers of Evil.
Absolutely.
And today I am listening to the archives of First Amendment Radio in 2010 and listened to Tom Friess reading the book The Ark and the Dove, which is a Roman Catholic book by a Roman Catholic author, written for Roman Catholics by a Roman Catholic. But then you can connect the dots to everything that is said in Rulers of Evil from the time of the founding of the United States of America and Lorenzo Ricci as being the general of the Society of Jesus at that moment. Also, you can connect the dots. You can connect the dots whether by doing your own research and reading different books, and then all of a sudden you see the connection between the books, and you see the connection between the characters mentioned in these books.
Oh, I got to mention Tom Friess's reading of the Global Vatican. That's right in there.
Yeah.
He just nailed that book.
Absolutely, yeah. I mentioned that already a few times.
I'm sure.
In Hour of the
Yes.
Truth, I have a few broadcasts where we analyze that, and even with Tom Friess on. That's already done, but I want to go
Right. And both Jörg and I can vouch for that. It's 99 episodes,
Yes.
volumes, or
99 episodes on First Amendment Radio.
Yes, and if you listen to that, it will just blow your mind.
Yeah,
it blew my mind.
And you can find them with all the advertisements and so cut out on my VIMEO channel.
That's right. Yep.
I've uploaded all 99 parts of Tom Friess's book reading of the
You
Global
might have
Vatican
to dig
there.
a little bit to find them, but they're there, and you should definitely get those because they're ad-free and just straight into the point. Right, Jörg?
Well, it's very easy. I published all 99 one after another without any other videos in between. So when you go to my channel there on Vimeo, and we will put the link to that channel in the description box of this video, you can find them very easily when you go there to my videos. But the point that I want to make is that I'm just listening to Tom Friess reading in 2010 the book The Ark and the Dove, and when it says here on the backside of this book that this book connects the dots, well, that's the point. When you read different books of different authors, even of different time periods, and you always come back to the same persons that I mentioned here, then you can also connect the dots all of a sudden, and that is very interesting. For example, in the book reading of Tom Friess for the moment, he speaks about Charles Carroll, who was first citizen of Maryland, which only finds a little bit mention in Rulers of Evil, and that this first citizen had a written discussion with a quote-unquote second citizen, who was not even known to Tapasauci because he didn't publish his name. And this appears in the book The Ark and the Dove. And Tom Friess speaks about the name of this second citizen and cannot even tell who he is. And that's where you really can connect the dots, and all of a sudden you see the bigger picture. And that is also why this Codeword Barbelon is going to be a very interesting book. It continues here on the backside of the book to read, and I'm sorry, this is in black background and little white letters. I'm sitting here with artificial light, so sometimes I don't have it that easy to read. That it's not that I'm too stupid to read, but I just...
That's right, it's night over there already.
Yeah, it's it's past 8 o'clock And and of course
Dark.
it is night here in December already in Europe.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Really.
it's not that I cannot read, but sometimes I just have problems to see the words clearly, and then I have you have to take into consideration that English is not my native language, and that sometimes I don't see a word or identify a word as easy as it would be my mother language, which I'm reading in. Anyway, it continues to say it uncovers a plot so sinister that ex-FBI director J. Edgar Hoover, a Freemason by the way, had to admit, quote, "The individual coming face to face with a conspiracy so monstrous cannot believe it exists," unquote, unquote. Codeword Barbelon puts the spotlight on a global organization about which President Woodrow Wilson, that traitor, once wrote, quote, "The few who are aware of it dare not speak above their breath when they speak in condemnation of it," unquote. An instance of high scholarship and intelligence, this book is not only timely and compelling, it is a must-read for anyone who cares about our world. A riveting view of world power that deserves to be on the bookshelf of every intelligent, independent thinking person, journalist and politician. Well, I don't think that there are many politicians who will get this book, and not many journalists who will have interest in this book. And the other point that is made here...
Yep, and you and I both know why, don't we?
Yeah.
They're not going to make no money. They're going to lose their jobs, and everyone's going to hate them.
No, and they don't want to know the truth. That's the very first point
right.
that hinders
Well,
them
yeah,
to
that
go.
is the first point. Very true.
And the other persons that the author is or the publisher are addressing here, on every intelligent, independent thinking person. Thanks to the Jesuits and the matrix they put us in from cradle to grave, we are unlearning to be intelligent. We are unlearning of independent thinking. And therefore many people just take in what some people tell them without further study or further approval of that. Now we are going to read this book, Codeword Barbelon, Danger in the Vatican, and we're going to read also at least a part of The History of Protestantism by James Aitken Wiley. And I ask everybody to use his own discernment and to do your own studies. Don't believe anything just because I, Jörg, say it. Don't believe anything just because Brett says it. But hold our words against the truth. And the only truth that is to be found in this world is in the Bible. Everything that we speak here, when of course we are not citing the authors, we cannot put every word of them against the Bible. But when we are speaking about the truth, when we are speaking about the Bible says this and the Bible says that, then you know that Brett and I rely on the 1611 King James Bible. When we speak of, because that's our pillar of authority. That's our pillar for our conscience. God is the pillar of our conscience. The creator God of this world. The Father of Jesus Christ, our Lord.
Yep, and stating the 1611 King James Bible gives us a historical marker to prove the authority on which we stand.
Exactly.
Because that was established through a huge battle that you're never going to learn the Protestant truth about unless you look at the Protestant perspective. And I think most Catholics are not interested in looking at the Protestant perspective if they are not moved by the true spirit of Christ Jesus. And then you come to those different Bible versions, and it goes on and on and on. And this book is just so incredible that way. So in just showing us, the how wide the path to destruction really is, I guess, what I wanted to say. But were you going to read this quote too here from Adam Weishaupt, or should I read it?
No, I was not going to read that, because that from Adam Weishaupt is written here in Arabic on the back of my book.
Oh, I have it here. Can I read it quick?
Yeah.
All right. The only reason I want to read this is, well, it'll be obvious when I read it here. Quote, there are in the central house at Rome
Wait.
huge
Registers.
registers.
That is not Adam Weishaupt. I got that also, but I don't read this because that is also in the book. We don't need to read this right now. This is
All right,
from
got it.
Abati M. Leone, who is an ex-Jesuit.
Oh, why does it say Adam Weishaupt here?
Because beneath there is a little comment written in Arabic
I get it.
dealing with 1776, and that is from Adam
Never
Weishaupt on the
mind,
back
Jörg.
of the book. So
All right. All right.
not
Cool.
not well prepared, Brett.
Yeah.
Well, come on, no problem. Listen, I'm gonna start with the foreword of the book Codeword Barbelon because we are already half an hour into the video and we haven't even started with the foreword. So you can guess that when we are taking on us the task to read a book of 500 and some pages, that this is not gonna be done in 2 or 3 videos. But
No.
let's start. The foreword of the book Codeword Barbelon by P.D. Stuart starts with 2 quotes, and I don't like any of these quotes because I don't like any of the persons who stood for this quote, because the very first quote comes from quote-unquote Sir Winston Churchill, a high Freemason and a man who was possessed by an evil spirit. And the second quote comes from Plato, who is, among others, amongst Socrates and this other guy, I always forget, there are always 3, Aristotle. He is the basis of philosophical thinking in the world, and that is what the Roman Catholic Church is built upon. So I don't like the people who said these quotes, but it is dedicated here to Sir Winston Churchill that he said, quote, "Men often stumble over the truth, but most pick themselves up and hurry on as if nothing had happened." You know, falling down and getting up again, falling down and getting up again, and then stumbling over the truth, but getting up again and running further, not looking back, don't want to have anything to do with it. Because that would be disturbing. That would maybe change my point of view of the world. That is what Winston Churchill says here. And the quote from Plato from around 300 before Christ reads as follows, quote, "Those who do not take an interest in public affairs are doomed to be ruled by evil men," unquote. And I read the same quote a little bit different another time about those who do not take any interest in public affairs are doomed to be ruled by people who do, and who are even probably even dumber than they are. Because people in power don't have to be smart. If they were smart, they weren't in power, but they were part of the body of Christ. But they sold their soul to the devil most of the times. We know of no other volume of this kind to prepare with this one before us. Some startling suggestions have been made in this new book, and we guarantee that the reader will be compelled and charmed, and must be, by the wit and eloquence, the force and fire of every page of this groundbreaking work, Codeword Barbelon. Codeword Barbelon is a work of stunning geopolitical revelations. It represents an array of facts that reveal a daring but subtle plan for seizing a global power, a compelling portrait of the future, and the most extraordinary account of the international power and intrigue. "Good historians," wrote Horace Walpole, "are the most scarce of all writers. And no wonder! A good style is not very common. Thorough information is still rare, and if these meet, what a chance that impartiality should be added to them." Unquote. P.D. Stuart's work of Codeword Barbelon possesses all of these qualities. That's what the foreword states from the publishers, but that's something that you, dear listener, will find out when you follow along with our reading. And I would of course appreciate it if you did the little investment of buying your own copy of that book. That is not available as a PDF on the internet yet, but you have to buy it, but you can get it for merely a few bucks on Amazon, on eBay, Codeword Barbelon by P.D. Stuart, and then read along, and then you will also see when we are commenting or when we are reading, and you can follow along. Consisting of 48 page-turning chapters with hundreds of footnotes, as I already told you before, and references, Codeword Barbelon covers a vast period of history, from the 2nd and 3rd centuries to the present day. Now, here is another point that I just want to make before continuing in this forward. Brett brought that up, that our authority is the Bible, and that I said that we should all weigh against the Bible. Bible prophecy is history written in advance, because it was written hundreds or even thousands of years ago, and we can see the fulfillment now over the face of history, if we have the real history. And that is what this book helps us with. With the help of this book and the book of James Atkin Wiley, The History of Protestantism, and probably even other works, we are able to determine that the prophecies written more than 2,000 years ago in the Bible have all come into fruition by pointing out to the exact happenings, events in history that we have today, 2017, to look back upon. Because there are not so many prophecies to be fulfilled yet, but there are many prophecies that have been fulfilled up to today. Especially, the work spans 3 continents and focuses on Europe and North America and the hidden influence of secret societies on that continent. It encompasses within its asides many other countries too. Indeed, reading Codeword Barbelon, one cannot help but feel as if he were traveling in H.G. Wells' time machine, finding himself sometimes at the city of Rome in the 16th century, at another times in Bavarian Germany in the 18th century, yet at other times in the political intrigues of North America in the 19th, 20th, and yes, even the 21st centuries. Using his favorite technique, P.D. Stuart holds his judgments and his readers in suspense by offering the reader a range of options in the interpretation of an event, through fixing multiple layers of insinuation, innuendo, and hidden meaning, and by his coupling of contrasting facts, then explaining such antithesis. P.D. Stuart identifies the role played by some of the major personalities in the history of the secret societies, from Jacques de Molay, who was the leader of the Knights Templars, Ignatius Loyola, who was the founder of the Jesuit order, Adam Weishaupt, who was a professor of canon law at the University of Ingolstadt in Bavaria and the founder of the Illuminati, to Adolf Hitler, who was an Austrian coming to Germany and a Roman Catholic, bringing into fruition that in Germany it was absolutely hated that the Second Reich that existed between 1871 and 1918, the end of World War I, was ruled by Protestant Prussia. The Roman Catholic Church wanted to have total control over Germany, and they could only have control if a Catholic was on top. And Adolf Hitler was that Catholic, coming from Austria, coming from the south of Germany, and ruling then in Berlin in the spirit of the Catholic Church. From Albert Pike, who was the most high Freemason in the 19th century of the United States of America, and who was very personally controlled by Jean-Peter de Smet, the Jesuit general at that time, to Cecil Rhodes, from Abraham Lincoln, who of course you have to know from reading probably 50 Years in the Church of Rome of Help me with the author.
Chiniquy.
Charles Chiniquy, thank you.
That's right.
And if you haven't read that, read it. I have to read that
Absolutely.
also. I started that in German once until I found out that they left out some chapters because they didn't want to nail the Roman Catholics for their traditions. And I said, I'm not going to read a censored book. That's why I didn't have the chance yet to read it. But you can read that 50 Years in the Church of Rome from Charles Chiniquy, or you can read, of course, from this Harrison, General Harrison, or Harris, or what was his name? Who wrote this?
I think so.
Who wrote this book about the trial of? He was part of
Abraham Lincoln.
Of the commission of the trial commission.
I have that book somewhere, but it's lost in my stuff.
Yeah, but there are many other readings that you can find out about Abraham Lincoln, to even recent presidents of the United States of America. Yeah, of course, most recent. What is important? No, not Obama. I'm speaking about probably JFK. And therefore, you can read a wonderful historically researched book, Wounded in the House of My Friends, Vatican Assassins by Eric John Phelps. I do not advocate Eric John Phelps. I have my difficulties with him, but a lot, not all, but a lot of the historic research that he did is very valuable when you are dealing with secret societies like the Jesuit order. In doing so, P.D. Stuart uncovers a plot so sinister that the words of ex-FBI director and founder J. Edgar Hoover, the individual coming face to face with the conspiracy so monstrous cannot believe it exists, P.D. Stuart reveals the connection between the Illuminati, Skull and Bones, Phi Beta Kappa, the Council on Foreign Relations, and other secretive fraternities, like the American college sororities. The array of secret societies he covers is quite staggering. That's what I said in the very introduction of this book. If you want to have a study of secret societies, there is no better than this book to get that done. Codeword Barbelon is undoubtedly a tough book. This is the second time the sentence is used. It is direct, as am I and Brett. It is honest and thought-provoking. It contains no compromise, no apologies, and no vagaries. Again, this is a repetition of what we read before. It spares no characters. All are lashed without ceremony. The result is a book that is extremely credible, crude, and compellingly readable. It represents the latest and most thorough use of the available material on the subject, bringing order and much ordered clarity to the confusing mass of secret society books currently on the market. It quote-unquote connects the dots completely, thoroughly, and intelligently. I almost think that the publisher have no idea what to read again over this book because they are repeating themselves. An instance of high scholarship supported by much careful research, P.D. Stuart has written what must be considered one of the most authoritative accounts of the Great Secret Society. Now, what is the Great Secret Society? The Secret Society of Secret Societies, the Order of the Jesuits, La Compagnie de Jesus, as it is originally called, the Company of Jesus. And he does so with exceptional finesse. Utilizing records inaccessible to or overlooked by other writers, Stuart reveals the identity of the power about which Woodrow Wilson once said, quote, "The few who are aware of it dare not speak above their breath when they speak in condemnation of it." Once you have read this book, you will no longer look askance at such statements. Codeword Barbelon is essential reading for anyone interested in the present-day operations of the powerful secret societies at the heart of the American and European politics, and of which Dan Brown's The Da Vinci Code barely alluded to. But until you read this book, you will probably have no idea of who controls all of these powerful secret societies. Rest assured, however, that Stuart's book is everything that Dan Brown's The Da Vinci Code is not. The author reveals the power about which Benjamin Disraeli, Lord Beaconsfield, who became Prime Minister in 1868 in UK, in England, spoke when in the House of Commons on July 14, 1856, he hinted, quote, "There is in Italy a power which we seldom mention in this House. I mean the secret societies. It is useless to deny. The whole of Italy and France and a great portion of Germany, to say nothing of other countries, is covered with a network of those secret societies. That I apprehend is a fact." Unquote. Stuart reveals something even more intriguing. A connection between the mark of the beast, the number 666, and a statement by former President of the General Assembly of the United Nations, Charles Malek, quote, "The only hope for the Western world lies then in a united Europe under the control of the Pope." Unquote. The only hope for the whole quote-unquote civilized Western world lies in a united Europe under the control of the Pope. People, we got very, very close to that moment. Last year, the United Kingdom, Great Britain, announced the Brexit, that they were leaving the European Union. The European Union, as we know it today, and maybe you are over there in America don't pay that much attention to us, but because I'm sitting over here in Belgium, I'm only 18 miles away from Brussels, which is the capital of Europe. And living in Belgium, that is one of the most Jesuit countries you could ever experience. The European Union, as we know it of today, is the revived Holy Roman Empire of the Middle Ages, of the time before the Reformation. We have over here in Europe already our new world order, which is the restoration of the old world order. And we are experiencing this every day. And I can assure you, the Jesuits are sworn to take care of that the Pope will be, as the next title of the book from P.D. Stuart is, Lord of the World. The new world order is nothing else but to put the whole world under the command of one man, the Pope. The Pope of the Roman Catholic Church, who is the biblical, historical, and prophetic Antichrist. The only hope for the Western world lies then in a united Europe under the control of the Pope. Well, they have that control. Even though the Brits announced their Brexit last year, but you probably know Daniel 2, the feet of iron mixed with miry clay, and they don't cleave together. And that is also how you can see Europe. They don't cleave together. They tried that with intermarriage during the Middle Ages, marrying this prince with that princess and this king with that queen to have a control, and the Pope on the top controlling all the kings and emperors and all that stuff. But it did never work. It broke apart in the time of the Reformation, and it breaks away today too in 2016, a year ago, when Great Britain announced the exit of the European Union. So the only hope for the Western world lies then in the united Europe under the control of the Pope. Well, are they going to get the complete control of Europe, and after that the complete control of the rest of the world? I don't know. When we turn to the Bible and we go to Isaiah 14, so I have my Bible, of course, here, my King James Bible of 1611, and I'm going to open it up at Isaiah chapter 14. There we read in verse 12, "How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground, which didst weaken the nations?" Europe contains of many nations. The first beast, the beast out of the sea, is the sea is a multitude of nations, languages and tongues, which we in Europe are. And you, Lucifer, didst weaken the nations, for thou hast said in thine heart, I will ascend into heaven, I will exalt my throne above the stars of God, I will also sit upon the mount of the congregation in the sides of the north, I will ascend above the heights of the clouds, I will be like the Most High. Yet thou shalt be brought down to hell, to the sides of the pit. The Bible says that Lucifer's goal is to be worshipped as God, to ascend above the heights of the clouds, be like the Most High. Yet, it says, yet thou shalt be brought down to hell, to the sides of the pit. So he's probably going to achieve his goal. Yet he shall be brought down to hell, to the sides of the pit. How far are we in the ladder of his goal? The 5 steps, I call it a ladder, the 5 steps to pride, which was the initial sin that made Lucifer fall in heaven. How far up that ladder are we? Well, in my personal humble opinion, I think we are very close to step 5. And the devil knows that he only has a short time. But the foreword continues with the last 2 sentences that I'm going to read to you right now. Put simply, this book reveals facts that are so serious, so startling, so compelling, that all should be made aware. To borrow the words of Henry Lincoln, quote, "Something extraordinary is waiting to be found," unquote. Why should you care about what is written in this book? You shouldn't. Go back to sleep. All is well.
Yes. That's a very startling fact that Lucifer is only mentioned once in the Bible, and that was it, what you just read. And yeah, I would agree with you, Jörg. We're getting close, no doubt.
On the next page, we read a word to the Arabic reader, and there again we have an Arabic written, of course, what the publishers of this book want the Arabic reader to know, and this is very important because this book deals most of the time, of course, with secret societies who are all under the control of the Roman Catholic Church or of the Vatican. The Vatican is the beast, and the Roman Catholic Church is the woman that rides the beast. And Islam is a foundation of the Roman Catholic Church. So I find it very interesting that the publishers of this book go through the effort to print a few pages, or at least this one page on page 11, only for the reader of the Arabic world. I don't know what is said in there, and Brett doesn't know either because he was reading something else, but that is not so interesting right now, because we are going to read that when we go to the secret instructions of the very first chapter of this book, in the second paragraph, there we can read what Brett wanted to read before, so that is not necessary that we take that from the backside of the book. Anyway, if there is no further comment of you, Brett, then,
Oh, please.
then I would just like to go a little bit astray, and before we start with chapter 1, which is the secret instructions of the Jesuits, I would like to take us to the book The History of Protestantism by James Atkin Wiley. In volume 2 on page 387 we can read that this book here deals with the constitutions, yeah? So we have in Codeword Barbelon the instructions, the secret instructions, which is also of course very important, and is actually just another word of the constitution of the Jesuits. The secret instructions are the constitutions, because the constitution was long time not made public. Until, of course, we find out in 1870 that a young obscure French archaeologist who remained anonymous made a most unlikely and surprising find, a discovery that was afterward destined to cause renewed and worldwide interest in a notorious secret society. So the record states. And this deals with the Secreta Monita. And those are the secret instructions, or the constitutions of the Jesuit order. Now, James Atkin Wiley in his book says that this chapter 3, called Organization and Training of the Jesuits under the Constitutions, deals with the following points. Loyola's vast schemes. A general for the army. Loyola elected. Constitutions made known to only a select few. Powers of the general. An autocrat. He only can make laws. Does that remind you of someone in the Roman Catholic Church? Appoints all officers, and organization surveys the world. Organization, preparatorial ordeal, 4 classes, novitiates, second novitiate, its rigorous training, the indifferents, the scholars, the coadjutors, the professed, their oath, and their obedience. The long-delayed wishes of Loyola had been realized, and his efforts, abortive in the past, had now at length been crowned with success. The papal bull, Regimini Militantis Ecclesiae, the papal bull had given formal existence to the order. What Christ had done in heaven, his vicar had ratified on the earth. His vicar, Antichrist, Pope Paul III, is James speaking about here. But Loyola was too wise to think that all had been accomplished. He knew that he was only at the beginning of his labors. In the little band around him he saw but the nucleus of an army that would multiply and expand, till one day it should be as the stars in multitude, and bear the standard of victory to every land on earth. The gates of the East were meanwhile closed against him, but the Western world would not always set limits to the triumphs of his spiritual arms. He would yet subjugate both hemispheres, and extend the dominion of Rome from the rising to the setting sun, means from the east to the west. Such were the schemes that Loyola, who hid under his mendicant's cloak an ambition vast as Alexander's, was at that moment revolving. Assembling his comrades, one day about this time he addressed them. His biographer Bourchers tells us, in a long speech, saying, quote, "Ought we not to conclude that we are called to win to God not only a single nation, a single country, but all nations, all the kingdoms of the world?" Yeah, the only question is, of course, of what God is Loyola speaking here. And I'm going to make this comment once, and then that's for all time. When the Pope, the Black Pope, or anybody else of that hierarchy speaks of God, they are talking about the God of this world, the prince of this world, Satan, and not the creator God of the Bible. An army to conquer the world Loyola was forming, but he knew that nothing is stronger than its weakest part, and therefore the soundness of every link, the thorough discipline and tried fidelity of every soldier in this mighty host was with him an essential point. That could be secured only by making each individual, before enrolling himself, pass through an ordeal that should shift and try and harden him to the utmost. But first the company of Jesus had to elect a head. The dignity was offered to Loyola. He modestly declined the post, as Julius Caesar did the diadem. After 4 days spent in prayer and penance, his disciples returned, disciples of the Society of Jesus, making the point as if they were disciples of Jesus. After 4 days spent in prayer and penance, his disciples returned and humbly supplicated him to be their chief. Ignatius, viewing this as an intimation to the will of God, consented. He was the first general of the order, few royal scepters being with them such an amount of real power as this election bestowed on Loyola. The day would come when the tiara itself would bow before that yet mightier authority which was represented by the cap of the general of the Jesuits. The second step was to frame the constitutions of the society. In this labor Loyola accepted the aid of Linus, the ablest of his converts. We are speaking of Linus, who took over the position of general of the Society of Jesus after Loyola's death a few years later. And Linus, and I'm going to tell you this right now before anybody comes up and writes an idiotic comment about, the Jesuits are crypto-Jews, they are Marrano-Jews, it's the Jews who rule the world. Go back into your cave. The Jews don't rule anything but that is given to them by the power of the beast, Satan himself. Linus was a Jew, that's right. He was the general of the Society of Jesus in the 16th century, that's right. But after him there were no more Jesuits in that order until the middle of the 20th century. Okay? And when you do your studies, and I can point you to a few videos, I know Brett watched them also, from Truth to Christ YouTube channel, I think his name is.
That's right.
About discovering, or discovering is not the right word, but making a video on telling us that this crypto-Jew story of Loyola is a joke. It is a lie. And no wonder, because the Jesuits do not anything else but speaking lies. No Jesuit ever speaks the truth. They are born out of the lie. They claim to be the Society of Jesus. Yeah, the Society of Jesus of the Roman Catholic Church, which is Tammuz, Babylon. Okay? So don't comment on this video about the quote-unquote crypto-Jews, which is all BS. And I can turn you to sources where you can read and find that for yourselves. Don't believe people like Alex Jones, David Icke, Tex Mars, who always come with these lies. Do your own research. Go to that channel, Truth to Christ, who made wonderful videos on that subject, and proves historically that Ignatius of Loyola was of noble descendants in Spain, and the nobles in Spain were never Jews. But okay, in this labor Loyola accepted the aid of Linus, who was a Jew, the ablest of his converts. Seeing it was at God's command that Ignatius had planted the tree of Jesuitism in the spiritual vineyard, it was to be expected that the constitutions of the company would proceed from the same high source. The constitutions were declared to be a revelation from God, the inspiration of the quote-unquote Holy Spirit. I say quote-unquote because we are not dealing with the Holy Spirit of the Bible, we are dealing with the devilish spirit of Antichrist. This gave them absolute authority over the members, and paved the way for the substitution of the constitution and canons of the Society of Jesus in the room of Christianity itself, of quote-unquote Christianity itself. Whenever we read in a book like this the word Christianity, we should check if the author maybe didn't even mean Catholicism. And Roman Catholicism is not Christianity. These canons and instructions were not published. They were not communicated to all the members of the society even, because not all can be trusted. It is on a need-to-know basis when you are a member of a secret society. Do you really think that the pawns on the lower levels have the knowledge of all the secrets? No, they surely don't. They were made known to a few only, in all their extent, to a very, very few. They took care to print them in their own college at Rome, or in their college at Prague. And if it happened that they had been printed elsewhere, they secured the whole edition. I cannot discover, says M. de Châtelet, that the constitutions of the Jesuits have ever been seen or examined by any tribunal whatsoever, secular or ecclesiastic, by any sovereign, not even by the Court of Chancery of Prague, when permission was asked to print them. They have taken all sorts of precautions to keep them a secret." Unquote. Well, in Codeword Barbelon, we are going to unveil that secret. This is why I will stop reading from the History of Protestantism of James Edgar Wiley at this moment, and I will turn to the Secret Instructions, Chapter 1 of Codeword Barbelon. And we read here in the second paragraph, because the first I already read to you, we read here in the very first part, I'm sorry, we have to get, of course, the few quotes with this very first chapter, The Secret Instructions of the Jesuit starts in Codeword Barbelon, which is, first and for all, "My son, truth is the daughter of time. Most wise, what is the great secret from filii veritas temporis filia? But who will rise up for me against the evildoers? Who will stand up for me against the workers of iniquity?" As we can read in the wonderful word of our Lord, Psalms chapter 94, verse 16. "Who will rise up for me against the evildoers? Who will stand up for me against the workers of iniquity?" I can tell you 3 names that I am aware of: Brett Norman, Tom Frass, and Jörg Glismann. So in the year 1870, a young and obscure French archaeologist, who shall remain anonymous, made a most unlikely and surprising find. A discovery that was afterwards destined to cause renewed and worldwide interest in a notorious secret society. So the record states. Although he did not realize it at that time, the young archaeologist's discovery would shed light on a most intriguing statement by the Abbot M. Leone, who said, quote, and this is what was written already on the back of the page of this book. This is why Brett didn't need to read that before. Here comes the quote from Mr. Leone. Oh, no problem, no problem.
All right.
"There are in the central house at Rome huge registers, wherein are inscribed the names of all the important persons, friends, or enemies. It is the most gigantic biographical collection that has ever been formed. When it is required to act in any way upon an individual, they open the book and become immediately acquainted with his life, his character, his qualities, his defects, his projects, his family, his friends, his most secret acquaintances." Unquote. The circumstances which led to the young Frenchman's discovery began innocently enough. His archaeological dig involved working on a project high up in the remotest recesses of the Andes, where the condors soar and llamas feed, a strange place where glaciers and hummingbirds live almost side by side. This was a land that the Incas once ruled more than 3 centuries before. Not long after his arrival in Peru, the young archaeologist rented a small room from a family in a tiny village in the backwater of that South American country. This room he used as his base, to which he would return periodically to recover from his work at the dangerous high altitudes of the Andes and to write his reports for shipment to France. It often happened that while he was away, the Peruvian family would rent the room to overnight guests. On one such occasion, the guest happened to be a Jesuit priest. On his departure, the priest forgot to take his little book that he had hidden under the mattress in the room. On returning to his room, the French archaeologist made the discovery, a discovery that would change his life. And I can assure you, not only his life. He found the little book. As he browsed quickly through its pages, he realized its importance. It was a highly classified manual of procedure for the top leadership of the Society of Jesus. The Secreta Monita Societatis Jesu, Secret Instruction of the Society of Jesus, aka Monita Secreta or Secreta Monita. The inside of the book bore the seal, signature, and attestation of the Jesuit General and Secretary of the Order in Rome. On its face it purported to contain constructions from Father Claudio Acquaviva, the 5th General of the Society of Jesus, addressed to the various superiors of the Jesuits around the world, and laying down the methods to be adopted for the extending of power and influence of the order, the Society of Jesus, and for increasing its wealth. Written in Latin, the preface specifically warned superiors not to allow it to fall into the hands of strangers, lest they form a bad opinion of the order. Of great interest to the Frenchman was the second chapter of these secret instructions, entitled "What Must Be Done to Get the Ear and Intimacy of Great Men." Said the instructions, quote, "We must endeavor to breed dissension among great men, and rise seditions, or anything a prince would have us to do to please him. If one who is chief minister of state to a monarch oppose us, and that prince cast his whole favors upon him, so as to add titles to his honor, we must present ourselves before him, and court him in the highest degree, as well by visits as all humble respect." Unquote. The most alarming part of the secret instructions, the Monita, was the final chapter, which read, quote, "We must be careful. We must be very, very careful to change our politics, conforming to the times, and excite the princes, friends of ours, to mutually make terrible wars that everywhere the mediation of the society will be implored. Those who do not love us shall fear us." Unquote. Realizing the significance of his discovery, for the next few days the French archaeologist labored furiously, translating the work into his own language, French. Once done, he replaced the book and left the village. Get out of Dodge! The Jesuit quote-unquote father returned a few days later, anxiously inquiring after his little black book. We can imagine the look that must have shone on his face, as though he could drive his head through a brick wall, as if he was prepared to do it. He demanded to know whether anyone else had occupied the room since his departure. On being told that the young archaeologist had rented the room, he began such a relentless search that the Frenchman was compelled to leave Peru in haste. The young man eventually arrived in San Francisco, California, where the Monita was published in English in 1882, in a work titled, quote, The Engineer Corps of Hell. A book, dear listener, that you can acquire today and that you can even, I guess, download for free on the internet. Am I right with that, Brad?
Yep, there's PDF. I think I have it. Yes.
Okay, so maybe you can provide the link for our listeners in the description box of the video that they can download.
It might be in that link that you already have. I'll have to look. I'm pretty sure that's where I got it. The Forbidden Books link that you put in your videos here.
Ah, yeah, okay, that one.
I think it's there. I'm not sure, but I'll double check. Yep.
Okay. Consisting of 17 chapters, the Secreta Monita was considered to be the definitive statement of Jesuit strategy, a document of monumental importance from which the principles of their government may be delineated. Now, I hope, dear listener, that I woke your interest in following our reading and discussion of the book Codeword Barbelon by P.D. Stuart, together with the History of Protestantism, Volume 2 from James Atkin Wiley in our next video, because we have already reached 75 minutes and I am not going to check out how long your attention span will last listening to us. But we'll break up here for the very first part of this book reading, Codeword Barbelon and the History of Protestantism by James Atkin Wiley, and we'll turn your interest to the next reading that is probably coming. Want to thank Brett for setting this call up, and of course, Brett, you should maybe make a closing remark also.
Yes, wonderful. Thank you, Jörg, for doing the reading, and really looking forward to getting some more time here during these the last months or weeks of the year here, because things should slow down a little bit, and I'm hoping to get a little time, but it's been awfully hectic lately, and I guess that's kind of the way I have to roll with things. So let's see what we can do in the next coming days here, Jörg, to get together and do some more recordings on this most interesting book, Codeword Barbelon.
Books. Include
books, absolutely right.
The History of Protestantism of James Atkin
That's
Wiley,
right.
because we will probably have another look on page 387 and the coming pages also, and combine maybe these two in the readings and read a little bit of this and read a little bit of that, and give our listeners even a deeper understanding that reading Codeword Barbelon alone would already
right do. And there's footnotes in this book, Codeword Barbelon, and that's where the reference to the constitutions in James Atkin Wiley's History of Protestantism came from. So he had that's coming up in the next readings we're going to do, Jörg. So we'll talk about it then.
Yeah, we'll talk about it then.
I think we'll just close it up for today.
Yeah, and that is why, dear listener, I told you that when you have the possibility to get the book Codeword Barbelon, order it online, and the History of Protestantism by James Atkin Wiley, you can get as a PDF. I don't know how complete that is, because I have the original.
It's full. Yep.
I have the
There's
original
all three.
publishing here, but that's just wonderful to hold the books in my hands. And therefore, of course, I have to rely on the video work for Brett, who promised to do the videos of these readings that we are doing. So you are probably listening to my voice and looking at his pictures that he selected during the videos. Thank you very much, Brett, for
You're welcome.
setting this call up and finally finding the time to come to the table and that we can start this task and continue with this task.
Your listeners should know it's been in the works for months, and I've just been waiting for a moment to get to do this, and here we are. So I'm looking forward to this journey, Jörg.
Yeah, me too. You know, when you want to run a marathon, it always starts with the first step, right?
That's right. You got it.
And that first step of that marathon, reading Codeword Barbelon, Part 1 and Part 2, and combining that even with the work of James Atkin Wiley, has been set, that first step, today, on the 10th of December, 2017. Dear listener, dear viewer of the video, thank you for your attention. Thank you for commenting. I hope that you do. And spreading this work. This is absolutely copyright free, and we absolutely insist on that you spread that wherever you can, on your own YouTube channel, on your own VIMEO channel, on your own Daily Motion channel or BitChute channel, or whatever platform you find. Share it via Facebook, show the video via Facebook, via all the social media that you are using, and get this word out. Codeword Barbelon, Danger in the Vatican by P.D. Stuart. Read and explained by Jörg from Juggler66 in cooperation with Brett Norman from Brett Norman Ministries.
All right, Jörg. Well, blessings to all in God's name and in the 1611 Bible. Hope you open it up and read it, and I hope that we can get together here soon, Jörg, and continue.